probably just start with maybe introduce yourself briefly, maybe, kind of talk about some of your, your interests, maybe just kind of like a brief synopsis on what you've done since you've gotten out of the Marine Corps.
Are you recording now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do we want to do that over?
No, it's cool, man.
Okay.
I don't care. Um, so anyway, little introduction of me, I guess. My name's Kraig. Served in the Marine Corps 2002 to 2006. Spent the majority of my time overseas in Okinawa and Iraq. Yeah, since getting out in 2006. Yeah, there's a whole lot of home life. Camp couch.
I hear that.
Yeah, started dabbling in making wine and beer and hunt, fish. Got 3 little kids.
Cool.
I don't know if there's anything else you want me to say, but that's what I got.
Cool. So, I guess for my side of that, I got out in 2008 and went to college for a little bit. Kind of didn't do great, I think 1 semester, maybe 2 semesters, and ended up taking a hiatus after an academic suspension, and then worked for a while in, I had my own electrical business there for a bit. I worked in the oil field, kind of just mainly focused on, the old career and that, because, that's how you can make the money. But at current, I've since graduated with my bachelor's in electronics engineering technology, and, I work as an electrical engineer, but in my side stuff, I kind of just go where the wind blows me, essentially. I have kind of an overactive mind because I have ADD, and, was diagnosed with that as a small kid. And, that just makes it so that, I have like these creative playgrounds, and if I'm able to focus that energy, I can, just do all of these different things, and it's just kind of pleasing for me. But enough about me. So I wanted to talk about our experience together in Iraq, because I don't know that we've talked in detail since then about that specific just kind of things that were going on. I mean, maybe we should just reminisce a little bit about some of the bullshit.
There's a lot of it.
Because I'm just saying that, and I want to just caveat this with saying that, hey, I mean, I get it. We're in a pretty crappy situation, right? Where it's not the worst in the world, though, but it's just a situation where even if I was sitting in Cancun and drinking margaritas every day, I would still feel annoyed pretty often because I'm not around my wife, I'm not seeing my kid. That in and of itself is a hardship on top of these other things that, of course I had it good, but, plenty of people had it way worse than I did. But I've just thought before, like, for somebody to just have the ability to just go down the street and watch a movie, back then, sure, we had like our little private servers and stuff that we made, or little hard drives that people had in a cubby or whatever, but that was just kind of like right before the internet, right as it was kind of like in the upturn and was becoming really popular. And there just wasn't the availability. So like, I would remember thinking, so like, man, it must be nice to just be able to say, yep, I'm just going to walk outside and go watch a movie over at the theater with my girlfriend. It's like, I don't have that option. And, you know, even further things, you know, like sleeping in a place of comfort. It doesn't matter. You're a Marine, dude. Deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many different hardships that because of that situation, there's really not a whole lot that you can do because of your given situation to help in those. And you're just expected to just take the brunt of that. And we did, you know, maybe we were bitchy from time to time, but we made it work.
Yeah, I can definitely say I was definitely bitchy from time to time. I remember one time when we were over there, because I got in trouble for being late for work a couple times,
Yeah.
and so I wouldn't be late for work. I slept on the couch that was in there in the shop, and then I remember one time sleeping out on the gravel in the tool room. Yeah, I mean it's no foxhole filled with water and mud, but those rocks were sharp, man.
Okay. So I was just talking about.
Wilson.
Yeah. So I guess to the audience, sorry we had some technical issues there. I'll probably have cut it out in post editing, but we're back now. But anyway, I was talking about Wilson, and man, I want to try to connect with that guy again. I mean, he was a nice guy, but he got me into so many because he was my subordinate when I was a corporal, and you know, of course, you have to answer for pretty much anything that any person under you does, which I think is an admirable concept, but I don't know that it plays out the way that the Marine Corps tries to portray it. I've wanted to reconnect with him because he's a nice guy, but he put me through a lot of kind of weird situations. But anyway, I think you were trying to say that you knew what happened to him?
I don't know what happened to him after I got out. I know when I was still right before I got out, he came to my room one day in tears because his new wife, while we were at work, packed everything up and went back home.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, I don't know. I'd never been married before. I'd never been divorced. I didn't know what was going on. So I brought him over to the staff barracks and had him talk to Gunny because I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
I'm like, here, I'm passing the buck. I have no idea what to do in this situation.
Corporal Reichel for the pass.
Oh, yes. Sergeant Absalon wasn't around. Sergeant Weller, I think she was out by that time. Yeah, and I wasn't about to call Staff Sergeant Lee on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I remember from Wilson, he was a smart kid. He just made some really dumb decisions. Like, common sense wasn't even...
That's an understatement.
Yeah. Like, yeah, he common sense just wasn't there for a lot of crap. I remember asking him one day, this was me back then, I asked him if he ate a bowl of retard in the morning before he came to work.
Jeez. No, I just honestly, I felt really bad for the guy. I mean, he obviously did have this long string of things that it's like, dude, that could be like its own comedy movie, honestly, if you just changed the context and don't use his name and just cast a different character. That'd be funny as fuck to watch, you know what I mean? Like...
Yeah. I will say there were certain things where he did get dealt the shit sandwich.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because this one time I was driving I was driving down to Newbern because that's where I lived at the time, and I bought that Mazda RX-8. And I was all excited about it. I honestly, and it was a decent car. I don't think I ever had any issues with it, but I'm glad I got rid of it. But anyway, so Wilson was, super excited about the car too, because he, I guess, wants one or wanted one at the time, and of course saw it in Need for Speed Drift or whatever, and I took him on a ride or whatever. So we're like going on the way to Newbern, and there was some gas station off to the right. He's like, hold up, I gotta go to the bathroom, go pull over here real quick. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I go pull up over there, park, kind of just hanging out or whatever. And he comes back out. He's like kind of hurriedly scurrying. I mean, it's like 15 minutes later. I mean, it wasn't even that long. So he's kind of like scurrying up and laughing. And I was like, okay, that's a little weird. So he gets into the car and he's like, go, go, go. And I said, is there a rush? And I just kind of like start backing up normally. And he's all like, yeah, fucking go. So so I was like, all right. So I got going, onto the interstate, or I guess I don't even think that's an interstate, but the highway or whatever. It was a 4-lane highway. And anyhow, I was like, what the hell was all that about? And he's all like, dude, when I got in there, I went to go over and take a shit, but I slipped as I went to go sit down, and I shit all over the wall. And he was like, it was all over my underwear, so I just left him. Oh, man. The times. I don't want to bash the guy because, man, like I said, it's almost like he's like the American version of Mr. Bean. Really. He's a very likable guy. And I would buy a beer and give the shirt off my back to the guy. But, man, he just, oh, gosh. But and I heard some stuff about old I guess she got to be Lance Corporal at a point, Lance Corporal Holmes, and then of course she was demoted in that. Did you hear about her?
Lance Corporal Holmes.
I thought you served with her. That might have been my second, actually. Yeah, that would have been my second term. So yeah, I guess never mind about that. I'll tell it later.
I don't know.
I'll tell it later. But, so, while we were over there, try to jog my memory. What were some of the... I mean, I have a few that I can remember that weren't necessarily scandals, but are just memories that have stuck with me. But, what are some of the scandals back then?
The 2 sergeants that got sent
home early. Yeah, I remember that. That was one of the stories that stuck with me, too. How she was literally fucking in a sea bag or some shit, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Really? Oh, my. That's, once again, dude. You put a different person in the part and don't say anybody's names. That's a fucking hilarious story, dude.
Yeah, I can't remember any of those. I can't remember the 2 sergeants' names, but I know they got demoted down to Lance Corporal.
Yeah, because, I won't say their names.
I don't remember their names, but infidelity in the Marine Corps, you might as well just beat the crap out of your superior officer.
Oh, yeah, they do not. I mean, it makes sense, though. That rule makes sense, because you can't serve with people that are going at each other's throats because they're sleeping around on each other, essentially. Like, that's a good rule to have.
Yeah.
But, man.
There was that. There's the stories I heard. I don't know how true they are because I didn't see it or witness it myself. But remember the tents that we stayed in the last couple of weeks before we left? I think I heard something about that. the two Hajis going at it.
What is
And
love?
for
Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Jihad.
And for those listening, it was two male Hajis, not a male and female.
Stop it.
Oh, behave. So naughty.
I don't I think that's hilarious, and I don't really take offense, but obviously,
Yeah.
like, you would have to understand, though, like, when you go to a country like that, there's a lot of kind of weird cultural, I mean, even though I wasn't, like, in Baghdad or some shit, you know, like, I was still in Al-Assad, and there were, you know, local natives there. Like, I remember one guy, his name was Elvis. Do you remember that guy? He had, like, the little, I don't think that was his real name. He obviously when I first saw that guy, and this is, you know, kind of in general how I was at that time. You know, I hadn't been out, you know, like, I didn't go drinking when I was a kid and all that. So, like, this is kind of like a lot of new stuff to me. And when I saw that guy, he was all like, hi, you know, in his accent or whatever, my name's Elvis. And I was just all like, well, motherfucker, you just picked that name because a lot of Americans identify with it. Don't be coming and tell me your fucking name's Elvis. Seriously? But he pulled out this little, this binder, and he had all of these little laminated pages. He had, like, these pages in there, and then on top of the pages in the laminated, you know, 3-ring binder style folder or whatever, he had all of these pictures of these girls. I guess he had taken Polaroids of the girls he had supposedly had sex with. And he was, like, showing them out, and it was obviously like, okay, I don't want to buy your fucking sex pictures, bro. That's a little weird. But what was the thing that, if that was ended before we got there, but it was like something like, if you went to some grocery over to the, what is it called, the BX or whatever. What, I'm trying to remember what the name of but it was like where you go to the military store, essentially, on base, and they would have, like, items that was kind of like if you're going to, like, literally a base, you know, like a USO or, you know, something like that. But I remember in that store that there was, like, some controversy where if you asked for, like, a bushel of bananas or something, it was like you were asking for sex, and you would actually receive it. Like, they would give you a message, and you went to some other part of the base, and I guess do the deed or whatever. I'm sure I would be kind of surprised that there would be that many females about that aren't being watched, though. That's the only thing I would have to say that makes it a little bit not so believable. But I don't know. Did you ever hear about that?
No, actually, I did not hear about that.
Okay, well,
Which, it surprises me, because I used to hear a lot of what was going on. I remember one day walking down. I was with Graftima. You remember him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was walking. We were heading down, and we went to the Haji Mart. And they were selling, of course, like the DVDs that are still in the movie theaters that somebody went and recorded, and all you can see is the head of somebody in front of you blocking out most of the screen.
Yeah.
But I was looking for rolling tobacco at the time, because at the time I was smoking. And these guys are like, "You want hashish?" I'm like, "No, I don't want hashish. I want tobacco, you retard." But the guy that I was talking to, he was whiter than me, and he had red hair, like my beard.
Interesting.
I'm like, "I came and talked to you because you look like you're Irish." Yes, another stereotype.
I remember this there was this contractor that I talked with, and he was a German, but he had, I can't remember what country they were from, but it was like some country in like Southeast Asia or something. But anyway, this German guy, he owns a bunch of land in that country because it's dirt ass cheap. And then, I mean, it was actually some pretty messed up shit, dude. Like, I have thought about this story for a while because when I was when I was younger and I originally heard the story, of course I remembered the story, but I thought more on it after that I didn't realize when he was telling me. He essentially was like taking this land, and then he would put people in work in indentured servitude, essentially, on that land. And then he would then offer them, he'd say, hey, you can have this, land, and I'll pay you, essentially in food or whatever you'll be taken care of. If you come work for me in Iraq, I'll pay you, something that's maybe double that, which to him is like fucking dirt ass cheap. So he essentially gets these laborers to come over here for like cents on the dollar, and then he's getting paid loads of fucking money by the US government for him essentially having indentured servitude on his fucking properties in this Southeast Asia company. Or, excuse me, country.
Wow.
I don't remember the fucker's name, though, man. Like, I talked, so it was when they were putting in some stuff into, well, I mean, I don't want to be talking in too much detail, but the location we were mainly at work. They were putting in something there, and I can't remember exactly what it is, nor does it matter, but there was a bunch of contractors around because of it. And I was supposed to guard kind of our area out there, and we had shifts between, because I think you were on night shift at the time, but that's what I was doing during the day, is essentially hanging out there while they, oh yeah, it was when they were burying the cables.
Oh yeah.
But anyway. But yeah, like that's one conversation that really stuck with me. Trying to think for some other ones here.
I remember we'd go out and we have to do the generator checks, check the fuel and everything, and go by where everybody was staying.
Yeah.
I remember coming back one night, and that, I don't know if he was regular Army or he was National Guard or Reserves or whatever, but the dude was sitting down, sawing logs. He was fast asleep. And he's supposed to be guarding us and all this stuff inside of all those HESCO barriers.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
That guy got sent back.
Yeah, because I went into the security hut, and I went like, hey, you might want to go check on your boy out there. He's sleeping. And they're like, who's sleeping? Show us. Well, of course, there's no Army personnel on duty that night. It was a Marine Staff Sergeant. So you know how we are when somebody's sleeping while they're supposed to be on duty. Swear to Christ, you woke up the whole base yelling at that guy.
I thought that there was 2 incidents even. So like there was that incident where you caught him, and then there was another one after that where he got caught by an officer walking in. And then it was over after that. He got sent right the fuck back. And I think it was like, I don't think he got kicked out, but it was a big deal.
Oh,
a fucking court martial.
Oh yeah, that's that one is definitely a dereliction of duty on that one.
Yeah.
Not like what I used to do, what we refer to as skating.
That's one thing disappear. That's one thing that annoys me about the whole dereliction of duty is I think that dereliction of, so I'm going to hearken it almost, so the way that the definition is is not how it's actually used. Sorry. Like, so, and I think that the thing that was frustrating even about, like, which you weren't a part of that, but the thing that was frustrating about the NJP of dereliction of duty, and it's like, you would then, and that's, I guess, brings up another light, is that, like, the UCMJ is not actually a just system necessarily, which I think is kind of bullshit. But the point being is if it's assumed to be a just system, then you would have to prove that I had no intent of doing the order, that I literally bucked the fucking order. If I just didn't hear you make the order, or if I, like, forgot, which is still, yeah, you didn't do it, and you should still probably be punished for that, for forgetting, because then, okay, you better not forget. But then you would have to put it under a different category, not dereliction of duty by the definition. It doesn't make any sense when we have words to fucking describe things, to have something that just encompasses a huge set of very specific behaviors, so that you could essentially, so like if you're a person in power, you can then just make up like all of these absurd reasons to punish somebody for being derelict in their duties or whatever. It just, I don't think that people that are, I just think that, like, not enough training is given on fucking, like, fairness and ethics in the military specifically. I don't feel like just telling people, and I still have this thing right here, actually, this card, this honor, courage, and commitment card on my desk, holding it in my hand right now. And I'm saying that this is the one from boot camp. The signature's since been, rubbed off or whatever, but, like, you need more than that. Like, I've obviously, taken the thought to think, how can I incorporate this in my life? Because I think they're good tenets and they're good things to teach people, but I don't feel like the military necessarily, holds to that standard. Like, they're kind of all preach, and, I think that certain situations, like, it's a system, and obviously systems can be always improved and made better. But when I served, I would say that the system had a lot of avenues for people to be kind of, like, corrupt in their own little ways. There's not really, in my opinion, enough checks and balances, especially when we're talking about entire careers. So, like, for example, when they were asking me if I wanted to go back in, and I want to say that it wasn't like anything official, but the guy asked me, he was like, hey, I could probably get you sergeant, an offer for sergeant if you, go, or within a certain time period or whatever, and if you stay in. And I was all like, well, why would I even, continue if I'm already barred from certain opportunities because I have this NJP, which I thought was, kind of bullshit. So that's kind of like the attitude that they breed with this, system that allows for people to take advantage of it for their own, personal ills or whatever. Because it's, quite frankly, I mean, I really sincerely feel this way, is that it's quite frank that there was a few people that just didn't like me. And granted, yeah, I didn't have a great attitude when I was over there, because I had just been, away from my family for 6 months, came back for a little bit, and then left for another year. Like, it's a hard situation to be in, and sorry that I didn't have the greatest attitude, but it definitely wasn't as bad as a lot of motherfuckers around there, and they weren't getting NJP'd. And I'm just saying, motherfucking Absalon and motherfucking Radulowski, dude, just didn't like me, and they wanted to pick an excuse to go over and punish me for simply not liking me. And I think that they kind of had this high and mighty attitude of, oh, well, I've got all of this documentation in this drawer from Gunny Lee, and like I've said before, we have our political differences. Me and Gunny Lee, which he's not a Gunny. I'm sorry. He's
Right.
since gotten out, but that's what I remember him as. I'm sorry, but he's you know since gotten other promotions or whatever. He got Master Sergeant, I think. Did he go Master Guns?
I don't recall. I know he picked up top, but I don't know if he got master guns or not.
Oh, okay. Well, anyhow, he is very thorough in trying to see. Like, I didn't quite understand this, and I'm not sure, I guess, because I've never been able to ask him or whatever, because I think we're blocked on Facebook or whatever. But anyhow, I mean, I don't block anybody on my Facebook, so I'm just saying, like, there's been 2 cases that I blocked people on Facebook. I actually will take that back. 2 cases that I have, but they're not blocked now. Like, it's not like if I block somebody, they're definitely blocked, unless they're like a catfish or something like that. And then it's like, okay, you're annoying me, go away. But what I was trying to say there is I don't really have any ill will towards Gunny Lee, and I now understand kind of some of the ways that he approached management, at least if it's the way that I am thinking of, is that he wasn't necessarily trying to establish this trend of, hey, slap on the hand, this is a bad person, this is a bad person. That could be used multiple ways. So, like, documenting all of these cases when you're trying to track long-term development of employees, and in this case, you're even doing even more interpersonal relationship building than what you would in a normal company, say. This is, being in the Marines is much more interpersonal. It makes sense that he would have this long track record of counselings, essentially, on all of these different subjects. And I don't think that because of the relationship, because he was my recruiter, and then we ended up going, being in the same unit after I got out of boot camp even, and even the same job. So he was essentially my boss after being my recruiter. So I know that you knew that, but I just figured I would explain for the audience. But the point being is that because he knew that, I always do try to, and he's even told me this to my face. I mean, I won't go into details of the discussion, but he told me, I want to talk to you because you seem like a person that really understands right from wrong, essentially. And I said, yeah, I mean, I try my best to do right if I can. Not perfect, but I do try. And anyway, so Gunny Radulowski then comes onto the scene, which I'm sure he's also gotten ranks and all that. So ranks where due, he might even be still in. Who knows? He had like multiple degrees, and I think he was a very intelligent individual, or is an intelligent guy. I just think that he had a much different approach to counseling when he came in, because when he goes in there and he sees this long list of counselings and this generic form that was created by Gunny Lee with the oversight of thinking, hey, if somebody else gets their hands on this later on down the road, what are they going to think? But he goes over and he looks at this thorough counseling sheet dating back from the entire time I've been in the Marine Corps, which I had been in just under 3 years when I first went to Iraq. But by the time he saw me, I had been in for 3 years, going on to 4, honestly, because I got out 2008, right after that deployment. Just a second. I had to shut the dog up, sorry. She just, if she hears anything at the door, it's just, she just goes at it for a while. But she's a sweet dog, though. But anyway, what I was trying to say is, I just really feel like, in my mind, I have this caricature of the person, and I don't obviously have ill will towards those individuals, but I do have, like, some lasting saltiness about how that situation was handled, having thought about it, many years now, just in passing. It's not that I think about it every day or anything. I've had a pretty dang good life for the most part. Could always be better, certainly, but it's not like it's like an eternal lament that I'm going to bring to my dying breath or anything. But it was a significant piece of my, younger life, and I do think about it and try to take lessons from it. But also, I think that a lot of the lessons that I found from that situation is like, you have to know the difference. And this took me even many years after being out of the Marines, is like, you have to know the difference of what type of boss that you have. I had literally, so I had one job before being in the Marines, and I worked as a, like I did waiting, I did cooking. It was like at this, a diner essentially. And it was kind of like an 1950s kind of themed diner. I don't know if that was on purpose or if it was just they never updated any of the decor, which it's a nice place. It's only a couple hours away, and I enjoyed eating there, not making fun of the decor or anything. But anyway, they that guy that worked there, his name's Dennis Klesner. While we had our differences once again, I think that, he was a pretty decent boss. I think he was fair. And I guess there was a few things that he said about my family a while back that I didn't appreciate. And that'd be the only thing I could say bad about him. But overall, as like a boss, I think that he always had the place that was regularly stocked. I think he did a pretty decent job as a manager because, of course, he's working with, clueless kids all the time in a Midwest town. I can imagine that can be frustrating, but I don't know. He was a guy that would actually not try to screw you over, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then I have Gunny Lee, Master Sergeant Lee, excuse me. I had him as my, boss right directly after that. And I think that he was in general trying to not, try to screw me over or, try to find some excuse to just, NJP somebody or whatever. And then I feel like this Radulowski guy comes in here, and I don't know honestly anything much else about the guy. I know that he was a reservist at the time, and he came over in replacement because, Gunny Lee had a kid and didn't get a chance to even see his, I believe it was his daughter, until, 6 months after the birth. So that made sense, but it's like I just didn't realize that in my naive years. Of course, you always think that you're bulletproof until, you get shot.
Hey, was that a stab at me?
No. But anyway.
So, speaking of NJPs, I honestly don't know too many Marines out there who haven't had one. But as far as NJPs go, for people who are listening who don't know what an NJP is, it's non-judicial punishment. It's essentially, if you sign the paper for an NJP, you're admitting guilt that you actually did the wrongdoing instead of taking it to a court-martial. That's pretty much what an NJP is. But I got my NJP for underage drinking while I was stationed in Okinawa. After many, many weekends of going out and slamming beer and getting just wasted with buddies of mine, the one night I come home, or I come back to base after having like half a beer, and I'm like, no, I'm going to have soda. Beer just doesn't taste good tonight. I get in trouble for underage drinking. On the
Nice.
4th of July of all days.
Nice.
Celebrating the independence of my country in another country by having a couple beers with some friends, and I get in trouble for underage drinking. Now, like, yeah, I did it. I was wrong. I shouldn't have. Marine Corps has standards, not like other um, services, the Navy, Army, Air Force. I know certain Army bases, if you're 18, you can drink on base. Marine Corps, we hold ourselves to a higher standard, of course. So legal drinking age is 21, so you had to be 21 to drink. Okinawa, if you were a service member, they didn't care how old you were. They served you because we gave them money.
Yeah, of course. They don't care.
But I remember I got hit with, I don't remember what articles they were. Well, one was an Article 91. I got an Article 31, which is general article. Article 91 is disobeying a lawful order, and then there was another one I got hit with for my NJP. So what was nice is that at the time, I was really good at showing remorse, but not actually feeling remorse. It was probably pretty crappy of me at that time, but
you do what you got to do.
So I didn't get busted down any rank. I got my rank held. I was just a PFC at the time, so I didn't pick up Lance Corporal until 6 months after my NJP, which that's not how it was supposed to be. They screwed up the paperwork. When they put it in the paperwork, it was 6 months from the date of the NJP, which wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be 6 months after another time limit. I don't remember what it was. I'd have to, actually, I still have my NJP papers. I'd have to go look at it. So I ended up picking up Lance Corporal 3 months earlier than what I should have, which was cool.
Nice.
And even because I had that, it didn't really change how I did things and what I did. If I wanted to go drink, I was sneakier about it.
Yeah.
I never left base at that time. I just go to the E Club because, again, at the E Club, they didn't card you. You walk there and they give you a wristband and you can drink.
Yeah.
But then when I got back, you'll like this story. When I got to Cherry Point, North Carolina, and I was checking in, I had a Lieutenant Colonel Schutz wasn't in at the time, so I had to go see Sergeant Major Unick. You remember him? God, he was huge. He was there on our first deployment to Iraq.
No, I don't remember.
No. I don't know, he was huge.
I remember the guy that yelled at me after the NJP.
What was funny is I hand him my SRB because I'm checking in, and he's looking at my SRB, my service record book for people who don't know what that is. And on the very top is my NJP for underage drinking.
Yep.
And then he flips to the next page. The next page, while I was doing my restriction to the barracks for my NJP, I got voluntold to help build a beer garden.
Nice.
And it was like 2 weeks after my NJP for underage drinking. I had to help build a beer garden because that's exactly what we called it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was I don't know, I had a lot of fun when I was in the Marine Corps. I do miss it, I will say that. But I'm too old now and fat, like most people when they get out.
I don't miss it.
Well, I actually tried to get back in 2012 because I had just lost my job, and the Marine Corps was actually my fallback plan So I'd been out for 6 years at this time. I was still in relatively decent shape. Um, but I lost my job, and they told me that I couldn't go back in because I had a titanium cheekbone and a bullet in my neck from when I got shot the year prior.
Yeah. So I was also going to go back in, but that whole venture didn't sit well with me. Suppose I might as well air that. So when I was trying to go in, I wanted to go in as an officer because I was just about finished, and I guess this would have been, man, trying to remember what year that was. I think it would have been 2014, maybe 14 or 15, one or the other. But anyhow, it's been a while. I actually did go over to this place over in Peoria, and Peoria, Illinois, and they wanted me to get, my rifle range and PFT and all that, just as kind of like in a quasi-reserve status. Like they just kind of reactivated me. But the ultimate job that I would get is I would go to OCS, and then I would essentially be an officer at one of these locations. Like I wouldn't be like a full fleet Marine or anything. Like I'd be full-time, and I'd be just like any other full-time Marine, but I wouldn't be in the actual fleet. Like I wouldn't go to Camp Lejeune or anything like that. I would always be tied to like some sort of a reserve unit and work in that capacity. But I thought it was maybe a stepping stone or something like that, so I was going to go for it. So I went over to this place, and they weighed me and all that, and of course I had been out for a while, and I don't remember if back then I did a lot of I don't know that I went to the gym like a lot. So I was a little bit out of shape, but I got back into shape, and I think that was like the main first time, because I went there 3 months. So the first time I went there was kind of in the shop, and they were an interesting bunch. Like the culture difference between different places was ridiculously strange to me. Like over there, they literally have like everybody is assigned their fire team and a fire team leader. And there's, I believe, 2 fire teams to a squad. I'm not an expert on this, so I didn't have to do this while I was in. So there's 2 fire teams to a squad, and then there's usually 4 squad per platoon. So I'm going to try to go from memory here, the structure. So you would have 2 fire team leaders and a squad leader.
Real quick, let me correct you on that one, because I actually do know this.
Okay.
A squad is made up of 12. So there'd be 3 fire teams and 3 fire team leaders. So that's infantry. Where you were at might have been a little different. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Sure, and that's fine. Like I said, I don't really know, because when I was in, it was like going to a job, and sure, we had to, and because we were, tied to Motor T, so we were essentially like in a mechanic shop, and we just showed up and formed up in the morning, and then from then on, it was like working a regular 9-to-5 job where you work on, pieces of equipment and stuff like that. These guys, they were like restrictively strict, like so strict and by the book that like there's no room for interpretation, literally. So like if I wanted to, so in the regular, and this is mainly, of course, I'm sure you already know about all this, this different culture, but I'm really kind of like trying to explain this to the audience here in a way that is understandable if you haven't served in the Marines. So like when I want to say figure out something for my daily job, or whatever, and I was in the Marines in my normal unit in MTAX 28 in Cherry Point, I would just go to whoever the person that had the most knowledge was, which at the time was Gunny Lee. So I would just go, essentially, me, Lance Corporal Bergmeyer would go to Gunny Lee or Gunny Pacheco, and I would ask him a question, and that was an open door policy. When I went to this place, it's like, okay, I was a corporal, mind you, which I was also kind of annoyed at. And I'll explain that here in a second. So, like, my motherfucking fire team leader was a lance corporal. And then it's like, if I want to go talk to even another person, so, like, I'm in fire team C or something, whatever they want to name them. If I wanted to talk to somebody that's not even, like, a leader of any sort, just a regular person, technician, or whatever, in official capacity, then I have to ask permission from my fire team leader, who then has to go talk to their fire team leader, who then has to then give permission, which then my fire team leader can come back to me and then give me permission. And of course, nobody has fucking radios of, like, that would be too fucking convenient. So of course, you have to find where all these people happen to be at any point of the day to go over and talk to them. Do you see where I'm going with this? How the fuck do you ever get anything done? Do you know what I mean? Like, seriously. I've literally had somebody yell at me at the top of their lungs, which that motherfucker was also a corporal, by the way, which I had more seniority than he did, and motherfucker had never been deployed, and he was obviously fucking, I don't know. Like, he was annoyed about it because he wasn't the most senior guy on the block. But that motherfucker, he needs to be kicked the fuck out of the Marine Corps. He is a disgrace to the Marine Corps. I wish I remembered his name. I would post his fucking name across the entire internet if I had the chance. And that's where I'm getting on with this. So, like, that other part, okay, whatever, I can deal with that. That's kind of stupid that I should have to, go through that many steps of the chain of command to fucking literally put together. This is what happened. I got yelled at because I was asked by the platoon sergeant. So this is something that I thought later, back later on after this all happened. So the platoon sergeant came to me and said, hey, you have a lot of experience, essentially. Can you go show these younger Marines like a MEP7 and, all these other different machines and kind of tell them about the quirks of the machines and that, because they're going to be coming up on a deployment here soon. And I was like, hey, no problem. Yeah, Sergeant. So he didn't go to the squad leader. And I guess in that protocol, what I was supposed to do is it's the reverse way around. So, like, if you're the top person going down, you don't have to follow the chain of command. You don't have to go say to your squad leader and say, hey, squad leader, please disseminate to Fire Team C squad leader that Bergmeyer needs to go over and do a class for such and such. No. We're not going to hold the rules there. But if I go and then pull all those Marines out, right, some of the fire team leaders don't hold the same jobs as them, which is another fucking stupid thing about the whole process. But beyond that, I pulled all these Marines away and just did it instead of going through all the red tape, and I was yelled at because of that. Literally giving people a class that's going to benefit the unit because I didn't tell them where I was going to go. And they're like, well, we didn't know where these Marines were at. And I was like, so we're in the fucking, we're in the maintenance yard. And granted, this guy, once again, he has no seniority on me. He's a fucking, a snot-nosed, corporal bitch, honestly. And he's coming over and, like, being very aggressive towards me the whole time, which I didn't take kindly to, obviously. But I just fucking let it roll. And then... So then the next time I came there, right, I went there it was, I believe, in July of that year. They wanted me to go to the rifle range. Well, lucky for me, putting everybody up on charter buses and taking them out to wherever the rifle range was. I can't remember where it was anymore. I was going, it's from Peoria, and then we went somewhere from Peoria, wherever they shoot over there. But it was kind of like a field op, essentially. But anyhow, so we set up tents and everything, where it was like literally a field op, which, hey, whatever. It was kind of cool, I guess. Kind of nice to get out in the field or whatever. But when I was out there, I was kind of looking around and trying to figure out, what the fuck all the rustling around was, because everybody was supposed to be in bed. And when I go look down the way, because we had our tents all set up in a row, which I don't know if that's necessarily the best idea. We should probably have staggered them. I don't know. They might have been staggered. I just maybe not remember the detail. But anyway, point being is like I looked down from the walking path where you would go to the head, and there was a bunch of people with their flashlights all fucking congregated over there. And I was like, okay, that's fucking weird. And granted, keeping in mind, I'm a fucking corporal. If I don't go over there, I'm just as complicit as any other fucking person. Any other person that did it themselves, if there's something going wrong. So when I went down there to go look, what did I see? This fucking corporal snot-nosed bitch going and pulling all these guys together and doing like these, beating the shit out of their legs for their stripes and hitting them over the chest and stomach. And it's not a fucking open hand slap either, like a lot of people like to say. What I saw is them literally punching some motherfucker in a line. They were literally lining up and punching this dude over and over again in either the leg or the fucking stomach because he just picked up. And I told him, I said, this shit needs to fucking stop right now. And he went over and looked at me and said, this is the way we do it at Charlie Company. You can either turn the other way or get the fuck out. So then I went over and I said, you do know, since you're of course I have to follow the rules, right? So I notified my fire team leader. I said, hey, I need to go over and talk to the squad leader. And he was standing right there. and then they was like, okay, you have permission. It was like some, they're a nice person or whatever, but she was a female, nice girl and all. And she, did everything. She's not complicit in any of this. So not saying anything bad about her, but she was like, I don't want to deal with this. And essentially, but and then I said, okay, I just want to let you know, as in your capacity as squad leader, that I will be waking up every motherfucker all the way up the chain of command unless you stop right the fuck now. And I said, and you're going to be the one who's going to explain to everybody why that happened. And then he went over and said, okay, I'm going to be keeping an eye on you or whatever, like trying to say some shit or whatever. And I was like, go ahead. That's fine. And they stopped. So then they continued on. It was a 2-day op because I think it's just a weekend. They're weekend warriors or whatever. So then that all went down, and I'm sure there was some stuff that happened, right? That I'm from far away and an outsider. So I imagine all their little buddies are, pissed about this. So then we had another op where it was just a kind of like a combat exercise, quote unquote. Like they went to like a place around the area and kind of like set up the combat engineer stuff and like did an op, essentially like a practice op. It was cool. I mean, it was okay. But it was very clearly a practice op. And of course, what happened then? Same thing. Everybody, except this time, the guy like pulled everybody together because he obviously wanted to, take leadership. And that's not the thing that I would focus on with this guy. Like, if you want to take leadership, I think that's a good quality, and that's great. But when you're a person that abuses your leadership, then hold on, you are not the person that we need to, have in a position of leadership. and especially people who are, um, who essentially somebody that's not willing to take any criticism, man. Like, if there's somebody that like really has a problem, like a really deep-seated mental problem of taking criticism, that person should not be a leader. I'm sorry. Like, they need to get a different job. Go be a painter. Go. Well, I guess that would probably invite more criticism, but you get my you get my you get my drift. Like, do something that doesn't give you power over other people because you have that bias. Like, and I know that a lot of people, that's probably asking a lot, to be introspective about yourself on what jobs might be good or bad for you. But man, I've just seen so many times in my career, and I don't want to get too far off topic here, but where people who just really should not be a leader have somehow got themselves into a leadership position, and it's cringy. It really is. It's like, dude, you're just gonna really bring the team down. Like, really. And it's always a position where it's like, okay, well, I'll go along because I don't want to be an asshole and just make them fall on their face. That's not what I'm trying to do. But at the same point, it's like, man, this stuff just isn't going to work. It's just not. But this guy, he just, I don't know, man. Like, he had some fucked up shit in his head where he thinks that to get rapport with your Marines, you have to essentially beat the shit out of them. I don't know if it's just like some weird fucked up fantasy or what it is, but like, that's what I saw. He had everybody turn in their IDs, and he said, okay, everybody, and I imagine that what was happening is the platoon sergeant probably didn't care at all. And he was actually there present during this time. So everybody turned their IDs in, and they said anybody's birthday that's this month, which I guess it would have been August or whatever at that point. And I might have got those months mixed up. It's one or the other, but it's either July or August. I might have got those flipped. But point being is whoever's birthday was that month, they did the same thing, the little red belly thing. But this time you could tell that they weren't doing it as hard. And I was just standing there as like, what is the purpose of this right now? And they're just like, it's not your position to ask questions or whatever. And I was like, okay. And I went over and I talked to the sergeant afterwards, and I said, okay, you do know that this is covered very explicitly in the UCMJ under hazing, right? I said, I'm not going to back down from this. It's going to go to the top. And he said, okay, and that's fine. If you want to do that, you have every right to do. Because obviously this guy had a little bit more experience and knew what to say and what not to say, right? Yeah. So I did bring it up next to, I think there was a master sergeant there. Brought it up to that person. And they said, okay, well, I don't really see the problem here. That's just building rapport with your Marines. And I said, Master Sergeant, that's not building rapport with your Marines. This is covered under the UCMJ. And I had the article there. I don't remember it off the top of my head anymore, but I had a printout. And he said, I don't need to look in that. And I said, okay, well, what's the definition then? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, what's the definition according to the UCMJ of harassment? And he got pissed at me and said, once again, what that other guy told me too. He said, listen up. I've already told, what's his name, officer, which he was, I want to say a first class, he's like the second lieutenant, first class. It's been a number of years.
Either second lieutenant or first lieutenant.
He was the second lieutenant, I believe. He was the one that he wasn't.
Gold bars or silver bars?
He was silver bars.
He was a first lieutenant.
Okay. So he apparently said that he went over and talked to that guy. And I said, okay, well, I still, if I'm going to go through the chain of command, I need to talk to him in person, because this is going, like I said, this is clearly a case of hazing, both, especially, the previous case. This one, maybe might be a gray area, but I don't think so. And I said, I will take this up the chain of command. So if you want me to go through every step, I'll do it. But if you're telling me you already talked to him, I guess I'm going to have to go to your, start going to people that have a little bit more rank. And he said, okay, well, we'll go over and talk to him. And that lieutenant even said, well, I'm going to have to defer to his master sergeant. He said that he's all about building rapport with his Marines and wants it to be a tight unit. And he's going to go with his judgment, essentially.
No, beatings aren't building a rapport.
No.
Some minor hazing, like when you pick up Corporal, I mean, that still happens. But beating them when they pick them up, no. You're supposed to get like a knee to the thigh and then a punch to the shoulder, and it's not supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be, hey, welcome to the club type thing.
This dude literally shot worse that next day. He, I think, got marksman on the rifle range. Yeah. And nobody can tell me that. I want to say that he usually shot a sharpshooter, and I think there's been a couple of times that because I looked it up, it's been a couple of times that he had shot marksman. But, or wait, what was the lowest tier? I forget. Marksman was the top, wasn't it? The lowest tier?
No,
yeah.
Marksman, sharpshooter, expert.
Yeah. So he had shot expert a couple of times, but for the most part he had shot sharpshooter, but he went like lowest tier of marksman. And it's like, oh, well, I bet that fucking kneeling position and that sitting position was really uncomfortable with your legs all fucking bruised up. And I guess I can't knock that guy because he's just like a victim of the harassment, right? So I'm not like trying to knock the person. It's just, what does he think? Like he thinks, oh, this is just a part of getting into the club, when it's like, no, that's not the way this fucking works. But anyway, I told him, okay, well, I'm getting the fuck out then. I said, I'm not going to be a part of any of this. And I had a half of mine to move it further, but it was just like, at that point, it would have involved getting a lawyer and actually, taking it a step further, unfortunately. And I just at the time did not have the financial ability to do so. So I do seriously hope something comes out of it. Like, I hope somebody listens to this, and if anybody wants any information about that, I will gladly provide information to the people that were hazing fucking Marines in Peoria, Illinois, because it's fucking bullshit. Those people need to be held accountable. Anyway, go ahead.
To me, there's a difference between the light hazing that you usually get when you do pick up Corporal, and it's not supposed to be anything harsh, or when you do it, it's not supposed to be hard, like a knee to the thigh. It's like, hey, and a punch to the shoulder. It's not supposed to be like, give it your all and make this so the dude can't lift his arms or walk. It's not supposed to be like that. And that's what I think that gives that whole thing a bad name, is because people are just going all out and trying to beat the crap out of the person that just picked up Corporal or whatever. To me, that's BS.
It's just complete idiot. It's just idiotic to do that. Like it's like those people haven't seen a history book, which they probably haven't. But it's like, what did the Soviet soldiers? What happened? What happened to them? They got the shit beat out of them all the fucking time. And guess what? When worst came to worst, they ran away, because you have no semblance of unity when you just beat the shit out of people and you abuse them. It's fucking stupid. I hate people like that, man. Really, like in the actual term hate. I despise people that way. They need to change their shit, dude. They're just ruining the Corps, honestly. Those people are ruining our military.
Yeah. After I got out in September 2006, I was out for, Christ, 6 months maybe. And 6 months, because in January I still wanted to do the Marine Corps thing. still wanted to be in. And I'm like, you know what? Let's try the reserves. Let's see how that works. Now, being that I was active duty for 4 years, I was volunteering my time, and I could quit anytime I want, which I took advantage of at that. But it was my first weekend there. It was the weekend I was supposed to check in. It was February of 2007, and it was the coldest weekend that we had that month or that year.
Yeah.
And they told me, it's like, all right, this is what they told me the first time I met them. It's like, we will check in next month. You come in, check in. He goes, just wear your utilities, and they're all going out on a field op, but you'll stay here with a sergeant and staff sergeant, and you can just work on the equipment and try to get the equipment up and running.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, sounds good. So I go there to check in, got my utilities. I'm not wearing or bringing any extra clothes. Don't have any warm weather clothes, because I'm like, all right. So from my car to the shop, in the shop, back to the car, go home. That was the plan. No, I get there, they change it. So I show up, and they're like, hey, hurry up, check in. You're coming out to the field with us. And I'm like, but that's not what you told me. And I'm talking to the captain and first sergeant. Like,
Yeah.
well, you should know things change in the Marine Corps. I'm like, yeah, but a heads up would have been nice.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting till I get here at 07 to tell me that shit changes. I'm like, all right, well, I got to call my wife and let her know that, hey, I'm not coming home this weekend now. So we go to the field. This is exactly the warm weather clothing they had for me. A Gore-Tex top. No Mickey Mouse
That's
boots. No Mickey Mouse boots, no Gore-Tex bottoms. Didn't even have a beanie for me. I didn't have any gloves. And they're like, well, we don't have time to issue you a rifle to go out there, so you're not going to get one of those either. I'm like, well, good. I don't have to pay attention to that then.
Yeah.
That was the only good thing about it.
Exactly.
And then most of everybody in the unit left because I was still gathering my stuff. So I ended up going up there with one of the sergeants and the chief warrant officer and the corpsman. And it's like an hour and a half drive or something like that from where we were. My reserve station was in Green Bay. So we get out there, and I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to be doing. I just know that I'm a corporal. Most of the people here are not NCOs. And I didn't bring any extra rank with me to put on top of my Gore-Tex because, again, I wasn't supposed to go out to the field.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of standing there, freezing my ass off, trying to stay in the sun and out of the wind. And I get this PFC walking up to me. And apparently, because I didn't have any rank on the outside of my Gore-Tex, that he thought he was a big badass PFC and he was going to tell me a thing or two. And he starts yelling at me. He's like, he comes
Yelling
up,
at you?
Hey, Marine. He's like, hey, Marine, you need to get your ass to work. And I just kind of looked at him like, yeah, you can just go away. You know, because that was one of my favorite sayings. He's like, no, I told you. I'm like, I told you to go the hell away from me right now. And so he goes away, and he comes back with this Lance Corporal.
Oh.
And oh my God, a Lance Corporal, dear God, what shall I ever do? So this Lance Corporal gets in my face, knife hands me, and starts talking to me like the drill instructor frog voice. He's trying to do that. And I just looked at him, and I got this smirk on my face, and I'm just like, boy, you better get that hand out of my face before I break it off and cram it up your candy ass. And so they didn't know what to do because, well, they're boots, in my opinion. So they go grab this corporal. Now this corporal starts yelling at me.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You stand in position of attention when I'm talking to you and everything." So at this point in time, I'm like, "All right, I'm tired of this crap." And I unzip my Gore-Tex and I show him my collar. I'm like, "I said fuck off. Now, it is in your best interest to do so."
Yeah.
Like, do you understand me there, Corporal? If we keep doing this, you're going to be on the ground, Corporal. Do you understand me? Like, and like I was a lot louder when I was saying this, and then the warrant officer, he comes up, he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Well, sir, these three peons think that I'm some boot fresh off the drill field, that they can just come over and yell at me like they're some kind of drill instructors. And I'm not having it." And the warrant officer goes, "Well, maybe I should inform these three that you are pretty fresh out of the fleet, and it's been how many months since you got back from Iraq?" I said, "It's been exactly a year."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, I think that pretty much settles it." He goes, "Do you have anything to say to him, Corporal Reichel?" I'm like, "Yeah." Get the fuck out of my face. Dude, this warrant officer was probably one of the coolest cats I've ever met in the Marine Corps.
That's cool.
But my first weekend there was out in the field, and it was all cold weather training, and I had no cold weather gear. So my cold weather training was freezing my ass off. And then I did my second month for my second weekend, and we were at the shop, and they wanted all the gear up and running. And it's like, they got all the equipment. Well, I was a heavy equipment mechanic, so it's all construction equipment. And they got a bunch of crap torn apart, electrical wires just pulled everywhere. And I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" And my sergeant, he goes, "Well, you're the most knowledgeable here. Maybe you should try to teach them." He goes, "Since you just came off of active duty." I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Did anybody here utilize the KISS method?" And they all look at me like lost teenagers, because you're telling a teenager to go find a book or something like that. And they're like, "What's the KISS method?" I'm like, "Keep it simple, stupid." I'm like, "Does it have fuel?" "Well, yeah, it's got fuel. How do you think we got it in here?" I'm like, "Okay." "Are the batteries charged?" "What do you mean, are the batteries charged?" "Are the batteries charged? Are they holding 24 volts like they're supposed to?" And
yeah.
they're like, well, we didn't check that." I'm like, "Okay, those are always the first two things you check before you start tearing crap apart. Does it have fuel? Does it have power? If it's missing one or the other, then you pretty much solved your problem."
Yeah.
And that was my last weekend there. It was May. Yeah, it was May 2007. So it was February, March, no, April. April was my last weekend there, and I walked in. I was done. I wasn't going to deal with the
bureaucracy.
It was just they're so stupid on how they did things there.
Yeah.
Like I got told my second weekend because somebody did something really stupid and dangerous, and I yelled at them, and I got scolded because I yelled at another Marine for doing something stupid and treating a Marine like a Marine.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, it was a D7 dozer inside, and they had the front of it all lifted up, and there's somebody underneath working on it with nothing to support the hydraulics to keep the thing from falling. Meanwhile, somebody is working on the hydraulics.
Jeez.
So at any given moment, that could have fell and crushed the dude that's underneath. It's like, did you guys really eat a bowl of stupid before you showed up this morning?
If you
So
think about it though. I
yeah,
mean, safety didn't even become a thing until like, I mean, it was in the industrial sphere, but out there, like, I don't really feel like there was there was no safety guy going around saying, "Hey, what you're doing right there is kind of dumb. You should probably not do that."
well,
There's no permitting
for
process or anything.
yeah, for us, for heavy equipment mechanics, one of the first things they teach you in MOS school was never trust hydraulics. Hydraulics always fail. So I got two guys who, one was a Lance Corporal, one was a PFC, so they're fresh out of school. They haven't been out in the reserves that long, messing around with hydraulics and not having anything to keep them safe from being crushed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so yeah, it was at that moment when I got yelled at that I was done. I walked up to the captain and first sergeant. I'm like, yeah, where are my checkout papers? They're like, what? I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, this is a joke. I'm like, if I'm gonna go if I'm gonna be a Marine, I said I'm gonna go back to the fleet. The
Yeah.
reserves. This is just a joke. I'm like, you guys are playing Marine part time, and
I mean, that's kind of how I also felt. It's interesting that we both ended up kind of having the same experience, other than mine, you know, in my opinion, should involve legal ramifications, but I don't know.
well,
Like, I just don't have the money.
Yours was extreme. Like I was in Okinawa, and if you ever met anybody other than me that was stationed in Okinawa,
Yeah, one of my good friends, she went there for her first tour.
yeah, they'll tell you that over in Okinawa, that's the real Marine Corps. It's not like back here.
Yeah.
But there's also a huge difference between going from communications battalion, which I was in Okinawa, to being in MTAX 28, a air wing squadron.
Yeah.
That was a whole different world between those two. Communications battalion, we pretty much did everything Grunts did, but with extra gear.
Right.
So
yeah. I think I'll probably talk real quick about my last stint, and then probably maybe conclude this conversation.
Yeah, it's been about a good hour.
Yeah, my record time right now is at an hour 26. But
holy crap!
So one thing, my second tour was all kinds of interesting, but had its own drama for sure. Like the first stint, obviously everybody that went came back together, and you know, it was all fine and dandy. And then, you know, when I went over there the first 6 months or whatever, there was a few kind of. Do you remember seeing Chuck Norris, by the way? Were you out there for that?
No, I was not out for that. And I hate you for that.
Oh man, dude, I was outside. I'll try to embellish it a little bit. So I was outside, and the sun had just risen across the plain. And look over to the front gate. Who do I see? Chuck motherfucking Norris walking up in Marine camis. And on the name tag, it said Honorary Marine. Oh, go look at my. I had it as a profile pic there for a bit. I don't know; it might still be up there. But look on his name tag. It's called. It just says Honorary Marine.
That's awesome.
But yeah, he was a. I mean, I guess, like you would see him on a set or whatever. Like he's very, in my opinion, he's a very soft-spoken guy. Like, I mean, I didn't have any trouble hearing him, obviously, but he's not, you know, somebody with like a raspy voice or anything. Like, he's just a very soft-spoken, kind of down-to-earth, chill guy. Other than his statements about atheism, I think that's pretty shitty, but whatever. I don't want to get sidetracked.
Yeah.
But, so when I was out there, I remember, a couple interesting situations. So I remember the halfway through point, you got to go on like some R&R over at Qatar. Did you ever go to any of that?
No, because they're gonna send me to Qatar the second week I was there,
I
and they were supposed to change it um, to like the third month. So it was supposed to be like late October, early November is when I was supposed to go because they changed it, and I never went. So I spent my entire time in Iraq instead of going to Qatar.
so I remember back then, Thames, myself, and one of the other buddy guys from the shop. I can remember his face, but I can't remember his name. But we all had like a network together, and we played this game on PC called Titan Quest, and it was pretty cool. But while I was out there, I set up internet. I don't know if you were out there for that or not, but this was on my second stint in the first, and then extending into this. Nah, I want to say it was towards the second part of the stint. I finished it up. Essentially, it was just a directional radio that had like a sender and a receiver, kind of like this little antenna that you would put up, and you just line up the sender and receiver, and they had this network across the base. I mean, I would imagine they have something better than that. If not, it's like, wow. Hopefully, I'm not. I don't think. I mean, anyway, it was a private network anyway, so it's not anything official. But I went up to this guy. They said, "Hey, if you want to get internet in your barracks, go over to this such and such place." And they gave me an address on base, and it was way the fuck out there. I had to ask. I think it was Gunny, or excuse me, Master Sergeant Lee at the time, and he was like, "Yeah, we'll take a truck and go out and talk to this guy." So I went out there and I talked to him, and he said, "Hey, I've got too much work right now. I can't fucking do the work. It's gonna be. I can get you internet, and the request is taken, but it's gonna be in upwards of 8 months before we are able to get internet to your place, because it's just like every place wants internet, and they just don't have enough people." And we said, "Well, why don't you just give us the materials and we'll do all the work, and then you just bring it online," because they had a satellite. It was a satellite connection, but it was a big sucker. It wasn't just like one of these little tiny guys that you get like on the side of your house or whatever. Like, this was a motherfucking satellite, dude. Like, but
Like
anyway,
when satellites first came out.
yeah, like it was a big sucker. I bet that sucker was 15 feet across or more. I mean, it was a big dish. But anyhow, so I set all of that up. Like, I climbed up onto the roof, and I got some. There were some spots I was able to cover up the cabling, but a lot of the spots I was not. So this was only like a kind of like a semi-temporary solution. But essentially, I draped a bunch of the Ethernet cables over the top of the roof to each individual window, and then I ran them all back into a switch, and then made like a wooden slash plexiglass switch container to put all of that in. And we ended up having it to where internet was in all of the barracks rooms, and people were able to have I mean, it was a metered connection that you paid for. You had to pay like per megabyte or whatever the fuck, which now looking back on that, I think that's kind of like a predatory practice that kind of happened, but that's maybe discussion for another time. But anyhow, you had to pay a significant amount of money, and of course, when you're on downtime, there's not shit to do. So I was like playing a lot of World of Warcraft and stuff on my downtime when I wasn't like sitting on shift. But I also paid, I think, a decent amount of money to be able to maintain that, because of course, that's a decent amount of data usage. But I remember going to Qatar, and they had high-speed internet there, dude. And it's like, dang, man. Like, I hooked my laptop up, and I remember playing some WoW, because I think the internet was down even for like 2 or 3 weeks right before I left for Qatar, so I hadn't played any WoW. I got on there, and I always remember like being able to have like a long hot shower as long as you want. Like you don't have to time your showers or whatever. And then one thing that was kind of weird was the toilet water was hot. Like if you plopped a poop down, like you'll get some hot water on your butt and it hurts, man. Like I know from experience. I'm just saying. That's sensitive down there. But anyway, but yeah, really was a pretty good R&R. Like it kind of just flew right by, it felt like. But I remember it was like I was in this little oasis essentially. I mean, at the time there was a bunch of dust storms and stuff while I was there. So I was kind of hoping secretly that the dust storms would hold me over a little longer, but I didn't luck out, and I had to, I only got like the 4 days or whatever. But it was nice. I got a lot of rest in, but I remember when I came back, there was this situation, I can't even remember what it was about, but I think I told a fib or something like that to Gunny Lee, and he found out about it. And he was like, when you come back, you got to fix this load cell. And we had this load cell, essentially. All it was it's a variable resistor. And it just, you hook a generator up to it, and you can give it a metered load so that you can do tests on it. Because, of course, the way the generator works, if you have a higher load, then the generator has to work harder to be able to maintain, that load.
Yeah.
So anyhow, it's like just a maintenance item, and it had not worked, I think, for a decade. Like we're talking like this equipment has been in the shop, and we even transported it to Iraq, broken. Motherfucker hadn't worked for a decade, and we took it to Iraq. And they're just like, well, we can't send this we're not going to send this to the depot because we really haven't used it in a decade. But as punishment for telling that fib, which I did, I can't remember what it was, but I fibbed about something. Maybe I was late a day or something like that. He said, you got to fix that load cell. And I was like, okay. And he said, just letting you know, nobody's touched that thing in a long time. And I said, all right, well, whatever. I had to pull up the schematic, and this had 600 and some different connections. Like, it literally was it was a daisy chain between just a whole entire, quite literal load of resistors. And each one of those resistors, all 680 of them, had a connection between each other. And then there was a variable switch that connected all the way back through all 680 of these. So you could increase the load, essentially 680 resistances, which I can't remember what the total load was or whatever, but it was a while. Like I literally had to take the wire off of each end, and I had to test to see what the resistance of the resistor was. Then I had to reattach the wire and then test continuity between that connection that I just did for all 680 of them. It took forever, but you know what? It worked. I got it to fucking work.
That's awesome.
But another kind of funny story. So you remember Gamboa?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we were colleagues my second term, except she was not my senior anymore. She was actually just a colleague. And anyhow, before that maybe this happened before that actually. So this would have been on the first term of that. There was Holmes, I want to say. Lance Corporal Holmes. And she, I don't know, it's kind of blends together because I had those tours, pretty much back to back. But essentially, I had a subordinate, and her name was Lance Corporal Holmes. And she had, like, a bunch of issues, man. Like, she had this issue with, I want to say a shoulder or something like that. And lucky for her, I guess, she has a pretty generalized name. You know, like I don't want anybody to be looking up anybody's name and trying to give a bunch of crap. We're just telling stories here. But anyway, she had a bunch of issues, and because of that, could not lift a certain amount of load with that arm. And that was fine. And it's like, okay, well, we still got to do work. I mean, you can still do troubleshooting on a generator, which she was a 1142 like I was. And so anyway, it was me and just her usually on shift on nights there for a while. And she was a smoker. And she, in my opinion, I'm just saying, like, I try really hard in thinking back to try to not have a bias, because I'll just be honest, like, she was super lazy and I honestly didn't like her. Like, she just, I had to literally do everything, dude. Like, and I'm not saying that I don't, you know, it's not like, oh, I should be able to kick my legs up and hang out and not doing anything or whatever. That's not it either. But I'm saying, like, she just would never do anything. Like, she would sit there for like hours at a time, and there was like these shared drives, and I did it some too. So I'm not saying that no, we didn't do it, but I'm saying when work was needed to be done, she would be sitting there watching videos and shit. And it's like, hey, dude, like, the stuff I'm doing in here isn't going to make you pick up an item that's more than 25 pounds. You can come out here and help me in some capacity and, you know, work with your non-bum arm, you know? So then it got to the point where she, like, put in these complaints with Gamboa, because I guess her and Gamboa were kind of friends, which is kind of fraternization, but that's besides the point. But anyhow, so I remember that there was a bunch of times where she kept giving me this crap about not being able to do something because of her arm. And I was like, dude, you have more than one arm. Like, what is the problem here? You know? And, like, I probably wasn't as nice back then because I was her superior, and you're in the Marine Corps and also in a war zone. It's like somebody tells you to do something. When I was a Lance Corporal, you got to fucking do it. Like, it doesn't matter, you know? And I don't think that the culture of being an asshole for the sake of being an asshole is good either. And I don't prescribe to that personally. Do I think that it should just be stricken from the Marine Corps? Probably not. It's just not personally my cup of tea, is all I would say. You know, if that's what people, the culture people need to be able to live in that type of environment where you could go to war and that, then all good on them. But I don't like the douchiness of the military in a lot of aspects. I think it's counterproductive for my productivity, personally. But anyway, point being is she wasn't doing any work, and I was getting kind of tired of it. Well, one time an opportunity presented itself. She went out to smoke, and you remember where the shop was and all that. There was a light post that was like just across the way, like over by the shop. And and it was kind of like a little smoke area, I guess. I don't smoke, so I, you know, I'm sure I just know of it, but you know what I mean. Like, I saw her out there smoking. So then she goes over and leaves, and this is like directly after, essentially, she's being a fucking Blue Falcon, essentially. She's just fucking everybody else over so that she can just sit around and hang out. Like, it would be one thing if she had like a thing wrong with her arm and she was always ready to like help out or whatever. That would be a different story, but it wasn't that. She just wanted to sit down and hang out or whatever. And really, it was just like, I wrote her up 2 times, but it never stuck because nobody else is on shift to witness it themselves. So it's my word against hers. And you know how Absalon already didn't like me. So,
Yeah.
So anyway, so I was like, okay. So she comes back from smoking. I keep working. I was working on a generator over there in the shop. And I look off over by the light post, and what do I see? A motherfucking rifle just sitting by with nobody watching it.
Oh.
So I said, okay. So I went over and I took the rifle, and I quickly disassembled it into every single disassemblable piece I could in about the matter of 5 minutes or whatever, and I hid those pieces all within the hazmat shed. And then I said, because now it's a chess game, isn't it? And I'll explain it to those that don't know the chess game. Because, first of all, if she complains about me disassembling her rifle, which is a valid complaint, I'll give her that. That sucks. But then she has to admit, that you left your rifle unattended. And keep in mind, this whole time, she's been essentially kind of like lying about my intent on giving her counselings and saying that I just don't like her for some reason. And that's not the case. It's like, dude, I'm over here the only one fucking doing work. If the work doesn't get done, I'm responsible for the shift. So it's like, I got to work my fucking ass off, and she isn't helping me none. So it's like, you're going to learn, dude. Guess what? You ain't got no friends on shift. What happens when you don't got no friends on shift? Weird shit happens. All right? It's just a fact in life. Don't be pissing off people at your workplace. It doesn't, help you out. And I've learned the hard way in a number of cases. I'm willing to admit that. But anyway, so she said, if you don't, blah, 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 I'm going to, if you don't tell me where all this stuff is, because she found out that her rifle was gone. Because she comes out, she's like, oh my gosh, have you seen my rifle? And I said, immediately, yes, I disassembled it and it's all in the hazmat shed. And she was like, it's what? And then she was pretty mad. And I said, yes, it's in the hazmat shed. You can go find your rifle and assemble it again, and you can have it back again. And I said, the hazmat shed is locked. Here's the key. And she said, if you don't go over and show me where all that is, I'm going to go get Sergeant Gamboa. And I was like, okay, if you want to get up Sergeant Gamboa at, 5:30, or no, it was like 3:30 in the morning, to go over and explain to her how you left your rifle outside, then that's fine with me. But just know that I'm going to pretty much be forced to, write you up for that. And I said, if you just go out there and assemble your rifle, I'm not going to write you up, but you better make sure you keep your rifle on hand. So then she did wake up Gamboa, stubborn person that she is. And then Gamboa told me that I was not able to write her up for that. Apparently. So anyway, one of those stories you remember.
Yeah.
Well, of course,
I'm gonna tell.
She got caught, of course, cheating around, but
yeah. One last story from me.
Okay.
It is a quick story, and it has to do with me and you when I was in the corporal rank and you were my subordinate. You did something, I don't remember what it was, but I was going to sweep it under the rug. I didn't want to make a deal out of it. I had talked to you about it already, but somehow at the time, Staff Sergeant Lee got wind of this action that you did, or lack thereof, because I don't remember what it was.
Yeah,
And he told me that I had to write a counseling sheet on you for it. And I did not want to. So I had to have Sergeant, don't remember his name, real skinny dude, real cool dude. But I had to have him help me do this counseling sheet. And then I remember saying, have Bergmeyer report into me. And I don't know why I said that. Maybe it was a power trip at that time. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I remember you coming in and you're like, Lance Corporal Bergmeyer reporting as ordered, Corporal. And you said it so condescendingly in such a smart-ass way that when I told you to go back and try again, I was actually laughing.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we might have to do another one of these, because, there's a few boot camp stories, too.
Oh, there's boot camp. Well, there's all my stories from when I was stationed in Okinawa, and I actually found out the reason I wasn't allowed to deploy in February of 2005 to go to Iraq right
Yeah.
away. I had to wait till August, is because my deployment to Okinawa, because I hadn't been back in the United States for a year yet, so they wouldn't let me leave.
Huh.
Yeah, but I have to start getting the kiddies dinner, so
Okay.
we're gonna have to end this.
All right. That's fine. Well, I appreciate having the talk, and we'll have to meet up again some other time.
Oh yes, definitely.
All right. Catch you later, man.
All right, bye.